Thanks for joining us this morning. Dane and I are very excited to talk to you about our new product offering, ERC FastTrack. It's a product we've been working on very hard in the background to launch, and we officially went live with it a week or so ago, and are excited to explain the ins and outs of it and show just how kind of simple and fast it is the hope. So a couple housekeeping things before we get started. There at the top of the screen, you'll see a Q&A section. You could submit questions there. We'll gather those up, try to answer maybe some of them at the end. If not, we'll add those to our FAQ, and it just helps us kind of understand areas we should highlight. So anything you're kind of wondering, feel free to drop in there. We'd love to get that feedback. We will send a follow-up of the recording in email and with some helpful information. So stay tuned in the coming days after the team is able to package all of that up. And one other thing I'd like to point out, you might notice our new branding that we've rolled out on our new website, along with the new branding. So this is the new look of NEWITY going forward. So we're excited to show it to you. We haven't publicly released it yet or announced it. And then next week, the portal will be getting updated as well. So you'll see by the end of next week, kind of end to end, this type of branding and colors throughout. So hope you enjoy that. We definitely think it's nice and fresh. So with that, let's jump right in. So just a background real quick. So myself, Luke LaHaye, co-founder, co-CEO at NEWITY. I oversee all the day-to-day operations of the tax credit and the lending business. I'm a CFA and a CPA, started my career in public accounting, did M&A advisory, and then lending for many years now.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Luke. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dane Colvin. Like Luke, I'm also a CPA and have some background in public accounting. Here at NEWITY, I work on our business incentives team. So specifically, I help lead our ERC calculations team, and that team basically provides the amounts and support for our ERC deliverables that we file for our members.
Awesome. So just a quick introduction. Maybe some of you are new to NEWITY, or I'll just give you a quick refresh. NEWITY is here to help small businesses access capital. That is at the heart of what we're trying to do. We have two main products that we do this through. One is affordable small business loans. So you'll see kind of on the mock-up of the dashboard that's on this screen, the multiple business loans you're able to apply, go in, we can pre-screen you for our 7A SBA product, working capital loan of up to $250,000. That's where you can see that. And then we do streamlined tax credits. The main tax credit we're focused on right now is ERC. And then the main topic we're going to cover today is, what does the fast track version of ERC mean, and how do you apply for it? You'll also notice we have business service offerings inside of the portal. These are service providers that we've partnered with that'll, we think add value to your business. They're things we use in our own business, such as, accounting, marketing, consulting, insurance. So you can see those right inside your portal. We think these are great partners and interesting to check out for your business as well. So I'll kick it to Dane. He can give an overview of just ERC, generally first.
Yeah, great. So really what we want to do here, I know a lot of this is for interest in the fast track product, but we didn't want to just jump right in just yet without giving just a really brief refresher. The employee retention credit basics, just basically giving some background on what it is, and then further providing some clarity on the eligibility requirements. So, just to touch on that, some of the background of the employee retention credit. So the credit is a fully refundable tax credit, and it's available to businesses that were impacted financially or physically shut down due to COVID-19. And this form of relief basically looks like it can come in a total of $26,000 per employee. That would be the max amount per employee. And the breakdown of that would be eligibility, max eligible amount of $5,000 in 2020 per employee, and then $21,000 per employee as a maximum during 2021. But in order to kind of calculate the credit and get there, we got to go through some of the eligibility requirements for businesses. Specifically, businesses had, like the credit says, had to retain employees and pay W-2 wages during 2020 and 2021. The specific credit amount is actually derived from the wages paid. So that's definitely one of the requirements to calculate the credit at all. But to be deemed eligible, there's really two main ways that a business can qualify. And those are a lot of what our calculation team deals with is the decline in gross receipts test. Really what that is it takes 2019 quarterly gross receipts as a base year and takes 2020 quarterly gross receipts and 2021 quarterly gross receipts and compares them back to 2019. So it would be the corresponding quarter comparison. Thresholds for that would be that in 2020, the threshold of gross receipts decline would be more than 50%. And then it drops down in 2021, the threshold would be more than a 20% decline in gross receipts for the business. And then the other way that businesses can kind of qualify for the ERC would be due to full or partial government shutdown due to COVID-19. So at NEWITY, we specifically have a shutdown review team, and that's made up of legal professionals that will help assess and research shutdown implications specific to where the business resides and the government jurisdiction within these areas. And really what they'll do is assess and research the facts just to kind of prove out the ERC eligibility for that business in that specific area. So that's a little high level overview on kind of what the credit is and how businesses can be deemed eligible for it.
Great summary. Quick question, just because maybe everyone's not familiar with it, but what does fully refundable tax credit mean?
Yeah, good question. So fully refundable means that the credit is not limited to what was paid by the business. The refund is the full amount of what's calculated for the credit.
Yeah, which is the best type of tax credit for a business because there's not a limitation on what you've paid in. So with that, gave you background on NEWITY, just an update there, what ERC Basics are. So let's jump into the meat of the presentation, and we'll talk through what is FastTrack, how do you apply, and then we'll break from there and we'll go get started doing that. So what is FastTrack? So it's a program where we purchase your tax refund from you after we file your forms with the IRS. The question we get, why would I want to do FastTrack versus the regular way? It's really speed. So with our FastTrack product, we're able to wire funds to you within as little as 5 days from when we file with the IRS, and compare that to our normal process where we file and then you have to wait 9 to 12 months for a paper check. So simply, the speed is the difference, and that way you can put that money to work right away in your business for the many things I'm sure you could use that for. Lastly, on the overview of how does NEWITY get repaid? So we get repaid by we collect the refund check directly from the IRS into a lockbox, and that repays us. So pretty simple process there. Dan, why don't we walk through a couple kind of myths, questions we get to help explain it a little more.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, just trying to debunk any sort of myths or misconceptions about the FastTrack product. Starting off, one of them would be participating in ERC FastTrack is expensive or the fees are much larger than the normal product.
Yeah, and we hear that or see that all the time. So for our product, it's just a nominal fee. So typically to calculate and file, we get paid 18% when you receive the check from the IRS. For just 2% more, we're able to offer buying your tax credit when we file. So what that means is we will fund you with 80% of your tax credit within a few days of filing with the IRS. So you have a $100,000 tax credit, $80,000 a few days later. So with us, it is not expensive. If you compare that though to the typical market offering, you would really need to go to two different places, somewhere to calculate and file, and then somewhere to finance. And each of those groups is going to charge anywhere from, call it 15 to 25% each. And so you add those together and you're looking at, it could be 30 to 45. We've seen people pay all in by having to go to two providers, plus it's two long processes because it's essentially the same process twice. Whereas with us, it's just a straight through, you're with our team the whole time. It adds maybe just a couple days on the process and we fund. So it's very straightforward with us and simplified, and we've been able to offer for just a slight additional fee.
Great. Yeah. So another myth or misconception would be only new ERC applicants can use FastTrack that haven't started the process of ERC yet.
Yeah. So for us, like if you're working with our team currently and you came in and you started with us, say a couple months ago when we didn't have the offering, you can still participate. If you just let whatever NEWITY team member that you're working with know that when you get to the end of the process, you'd like to be, take a part of the FastTrack process, we can just update your account on our side, and then it'll just flow kind of seamlessly into the FastTrack analysis part at the very end. So we've made that part, should be pretty easy. So just let your NEWITY team member know.
Awesome. And then the final one to address would be applying for ERC FastTrack is difficult, or it requires a lot of additional steps in addition to just the normal ERC application.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, the typical approach in the industry, you'd have to go from your calculation filing provider to find a financing provider. And that is cumbersome because you have to give everyone the same amount of documents twice. With us, you don't have to do that. Those documents carry through. It's one calculation. There's no need to recalculate it. And then you go through the final closing steps where, there's a driver's license we need to get, a couple, like one or two extra documents, but very minimal additional items needed for FastTrack versus our standard filing process. So Dave, now that we've talked about what is ERC, FastTrack, some of the myths, let's walk through how do they apply?
Yeah, so getting into the action of it. And a lot of this I can kind of allude to what you addressed through the myths. This process is so embedded in our normal ERC journey that the additional steps you have to take to apply for the actual FastTrack product are very minimal, to say the least. So much like you would normally if you were doing traditional ERC with us, you could go onto our website and either create a new member account or log into your existing NEWITY member account. And if you have any issues with that at all, being a new member or any of this application process, feel free to either reference our account setup guide. You can use the chat feature on our website, or you can email support@newitymarket.com. And this will be an actual, person on the other end helping you kind of navigate through this process. But anyway, once you kind of set up the account and log in, you would navigate over to our ERC tile and select Apply Now. And from there, it's really just clicks of a button and simple prompts that will pop up to gauge, one traditional ERC, but then additionally gauge your interest in this FastTrack product. And it's as simple as checking yes and prompting the additional questions that FastTrack would involve. But from there, it will really just run a soft credit check to gauge the, pre-screen qualification, and just kind of go from there in the normal process. And I think Luke had touched on this before. If you already have submitted an ERC application with NEWITY and you're somewhere in the process, feel free to reach out to whether it's your calculation specialist, your NEWITY member services representative, and just, let them know that you're interested in this product and they can point you in the right direction to get you set up for the offering.
Yeah, awesome. And Dave, what happens if somebody selects that they do want FastTrack, and then let's say they didn't meet the credit minimum that the system analyzes? are they still able to file with us, or what happens then?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So if you do go through this process and you, for some reason, don't qualify, we still offer ERC the traditional route, and you're able to go through as normal, let us calculate the ERC for you, file it on your behalf, and then just the funding amount would take that 9 to 12 months of lead time.
Great. Thanks for that. So what Dane just described is kind of the first two steps here. So submitting the application through our portal, providing the supporting docs needed, which are 941s, some income statements, tax returns, the things you would expect, PPP applications if we don't already have yours from being a PPP customer with us. The team will do the calculations. Once the process is complete and your forms are ready, we'll send you an e-sign packet that'll have all of a memo detailing all the work we've done, along with all the tax forms filled out. You'll digitally sign them. Then they come back to us. We print them out. We physically sign them as paid preparer and ship them off to the IRS. At that time, we'd give you FedEx numbers. So you'll see the delivery, keep you updated on that status. And then if you had participated in FastTrack, that would kick off the closing process, and we'll get you kind of through that process to get you funded in as little as 5 days. If you'd gone the traditional route, you can expect to see a check from the IRS in 9 to 12 months. And we'll keep you updated on your dashboard. We have an integration from the tax portal that'll keep updating where your different quarters statuses are at. That'll roll out later this month. So we'll be able to display those specific updates to you as it happens. So that would be some helpful information. So like we said, it's not a complicated process. And so that's why not an overly long presentation. So simply go into our portal as normal, go through the application. There will be an option of, would you like to, apply for cash now or cash later? This is exactly what the screen looks like. You select which one, and then you go from there. So the process is streamlined that way. Some helpful links and resources. This will go out in the email too, so you can, follow these and reference back to them. But Dane, it looks like we have, a few minutes. Maybe we take 5 minutes and go through some of the Q&A for the folks that want to stick around for it.
Yeah, sounds good. It looks like some are coming in, and we have a few that are kind of pooled that we've gotten prior. Before we get into that, I did want to kind of have you address a more common question we've been seeing with our current members, either throughout the journey or towards the end of the journey. So that question basically is, these members bring up the risk of ERC and pose the question of if ERC is too risky of an opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, and that's a question we get all the time, and we think about all the time. So, I guess first and foremost, if ERC is done properly, it's no different than participating in PPP. They're born out of the same legislation. They have a lot of similarities, and the wages, you have to take into account both when you're doing the calculation for either. There's been a lot of changes to the program and misinformation out there. So we understand the question, but in our opinion, if your business qualifies, this is a program the government put out for you retaining your employees rather than you putting them on unemployment. So the government's trying to pay you back for that. So I would say, we don't see any risk in participating. It's the same idea as participating in PPP. It's just a different method of getting you funds. We do have an article that we put out that are ERC red flags. So there's kind of 3 main items that we point out in this article of things that, as a consumer of the ERC product, that you should just be cognizant of, and you should just understand. So that way, whatever provider you're working with, if it's us or not us, that you can look at it from your lens and say, does the advice make sense? Are they looking out for my best interest? I think that article does a nice job of saying, like, these are the 3 critical things that I would look at if I was working with someone. So I would refer you to that article as well. So we talked about, running a soft pull, what are some of the credit criteria, Dane, that we look for ERC FastTrack?
Yeah, so generally it's just a handful of things we're looking for. Currently, we're looking for a 640 FICO score as the minimum, and then also no tax liens and a clean background check on the business and the individual.
And then what about if there's more than one owner of the business? How does that impact all of that?
Yeah, another good question. So really we're looking for, like, the threshold would be owners of 25% or more that we would have to include kind of like the background assessment. And for those specific owners, we're really looking at the minimum FICO requirements, and then providing a photocopy of driver's license or ID, and then just an additional e-sign document that they'll have to sign. Cool. Got another question for you. So this has come up a bit. So what happens if my ERC filing is not fully approved by the IRS?
Yep. Yeah, we get that question all the time too. So in the case of the fast track, if that rare occasion occurred, which we don't really anticipate, but if that rare occasion occurred, it would then the fast track advance would need to be repaid. So it would look more like a short-term loan in that scenario, because the refund check coming to us is how that gets repaid. In the traditional method, if that were to happen in that scenario, you just wouldn't have gotten your refund. So, there would be kind of nothing to unwind in that scenario. So I think getting kind of towards the end. So why don't we just maybe cover one more item that we see a lot, and a couple people have asked is, I've already filed with NEWITY. Can I still do the fast track, or is it too late?
Yeah, so generally, like at this point, our response to that is yes. We're currently working on like the final process and how the details of this piece will work. But if you're somebody that this applies to, you've previously filed with us already, please feel free to reach out to, whether it's your member services representative at NEWITY, calc specialist that you work with, whoever on the closing team. Just reach out to them, let them know that this is something you're interested in, and you'll be the first one to kind of know when this process is buttoned up and ready to roll out. And then, so we have another one that kind of piggybacks off that. Can I still do fast track if I've already filed the ERC with a different provider other than NEWITY?
Yeah, so on that one, kind of similar answer is we do plan to provide that as a service. We are working on what the exact process of that's going to be. So if you filed with a different provider, we'll have a specific process laid out to bring in all your info, be able to do the recalculation, understand the numbers, and once we get comfortable with them, purchase them in a similar manner. So we don't have that yet. We are working, very hard, like on everything, to roll that out as quickly as possible, because we know time is of the essence. So if that's a situation that you're in, please drop us an email at support@newitymarket.com and just let us know that you're interested in that, and we'll put you, in a queue that'll be notified kind of first when that's ready. And so we're working on that in the coming, single-digit weeks, a couple weeks, 1, 2, that will be rolling out. So yeah, we hope to, if that's you, we hope to be able to also help serve you, because there's a lot of members in that situation. So I think with that, we'll kind of call it there. Hopefully you found this informative, and also kind of realize the process is nearly the exact same, just a couple different prompts and a few extra questions to participate in the fast track. And thank you for attending today, and we really look forward to working with you to help you get this filed and get you funded soon. So have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.